At the time of recording this, it's Star Wars Day, and what's a better way to celebrate Star Wars Day than with a Star Wars terrarium? So today we'll be making an abandoned AT-ST in a jungle terrarium. I'll show you all the modelling techniques I use to create the build and how to blend the model into a natural environment. I'm going to start by using aluminium wire to create a frame for the head of the AT-ST. I'm using pliers to help me bend the wire into the correct shape. Creating a frame like this is essential as a solid block of clay won't bake all the way through and it would be too top heavy. You don't have to be too accurate with this, but the more accurate you can get the edge lines, the easier life will be later on. I'm using more wire to reinforce the sides here and help give the aluminium foil something to stick to when we add it in a minute. I'm also going to be leaving a small hole in the top to add moss into later, and this will give space to add a growing medium. I'm then going to wrap the wire in aluminium foil, which will further reinforce the frame and give us something to stick the clay onto. I'm going to repeat these same steps with the legs of the AT-ST, as well as the body, which will be made out of more aluminium wire and wrapped with more foil. I'm also securing the head to the body by winding together the wires, and I'm also securing the legs at the same time. By having the feet directly under the neck and head of the body, the centre of mass is such that it doesn't tip over. I'm now going to roll out some Super Sculpey modelling clay and cut it to fit the edges of the AT-ST, which I'll then press directly into the foil to secure the sides. Using a metal rod, I'll gently blend the sides into each other. I'm now going to press in 2 pieces of wire to form the guns at the front, as we can't add them once the clay is baked. I'm also adding in this piece of clay for the neck, and poking 2 holes on either side of the head for the side part of the AT-ST that sticks out later. After this, it was ready for a bake in the oven. This is to preserve the details of the head section, as I don't want the edges looking too smooth from me repeatedly touching them. I'll be baking it at 135 degrees C for 15 minutes and then leaving it on the side to cool before continuing. Now that it's baked, I can start layering details on top of the hardened clay. The trick is to take your time and really pay attention to the shapes and details you can see in your reference photo so that the model turns out as accurate as possible. I'm going to start detailing the right side of the AT-ST while we lay the left side down on the table, which has already been baked. By doing one side at a time, it ensures we won't mess up our details on the other side of the model. You can also see me pressing thin bits of wire into the clay for extra detail. After this side of the model was baked to preserve the detail, I flipped it over and repeated the same steps on the other side. After this, I began adding rectangles to the legs to start building up their mechanical shapes. We don't want the legs to be too round, so I'm going to layer blocks of clay on top of each other and blend them together at the joints with these mini clay rings. Now for the feet, I'm going to use these clay circles which I pressed the wire into, and on top of this I'll add in the mini details. Now I'll add wire going in and out of each leg to help that mechanical feel. I'm trying to make the AT-ST look like it's been abandoned and is starting to rust, so the exposed wire will help project that narrative. After a quick bake, I can start to add the details to the sides that I was talking about earlier. I'll start by making the circle that the side guns attach onto. I'll then go around the wire with a ring of clay and I'll add the shield onto the side of that. Then I can press in 2 more pieces of wire to complete it. I'll then do the same on the other side and we'll use some clay to help prop up the wire to point it in the right direction. I'm now going to blend the hatch doors into the top of the model. Unfortunately, I forgot to add holes for the inside of the hatch, but it should be okay as we'll fix this later. Next I'll add on the railings around the top of the head. I'm adding in mini clay squares that I can place the wire into. After this, I'll roll out some clay into thin tubes and place them along the top to create a grating effect. To complete the modelling, I'll add these final details onto the back with these panels and mini fans. After this, I gave it a bake and it was ready for paint. Well, almost ready. First, I have to spray it down with primer, which I'll be doing on my beautiful painting mat to stop my table from getting any more damage than it already is. I'll be using white primer and will apply a coat across all areas of the model, including the wires sticking out of various places. I'll then leave it to dry for 4 hours with the assistance of my fan to speed things up. I'll then mix together a bunch of my paint to create a colour for the base coat of the ATST. The colours include mainly grey with a bit of brown and this metallic grey to add a bit of shine. I'll start the paint on this right leg going all the way up it before applying the paint across the whole body. I'm not too worried about the details yet, as the whole body needs to be this colour before I can add anything else. Let me know in the comments if you've got any ideas for things I can model in the future to go into terrariums. I'm now going to start dabbing brown paint around the edge of any panels or on wires to create the effect of rust. I'm not worried too much about how precise I am, as this can help create the effect of it being weathered and abandoned. I'm going to leave Amazon links in the description to all the materials I'm using, including the clay, paints, and other things like the primer. Next, I'll add some bluey green to the brown areas to act as moss or more oxidized rust. I'm using the same method as I did with the brown and going over the whole model. Remember the hatch windows from earlier? I'll now get some black paint and fill them in, which should create the illusion of an inside to a decent standard. I'll go back along with grey paint to even out the sides. After this, I'll use the black paint to create some more holes in the rust. To complete the painting, using some metallic paint will add some touches of shine where the metal hasn't yet faded to further the detail of the ATST. I then left the paint to dry with the assistance of my fan again. For now, the modelling is complete and I'm super happy with how it's looking. However, we're forgetting an important component that will help blend the ATST into its final home. And that component is moss. I'll start by adding some sphagnum moss into the hole we made earlier before adding some live moss on top. I'll also be threading moss into the wires and in any areas where it may fit, like around the guns or on the body. This step is what's really made the ATST come alive, and it's just about ready to go inside the terrarium. I love how the rust and moss combine to create the story of the abandonment. I would advise coating the model before adding it to a humid environment, but unfortunately I don't have any epoxy at the moment, so I'll do this another day. To start the terrarium, I'll use a layer of Leca as a drainage, which I'll pour in and pat down flat. On top of this, I can then add window screen mesh, which will act as a substrate barrier, while still allowing water to pass through. I then added the substrate and placed in the ATST to check it fit correctly and to work out where I would position it. To make sure that it remains stable, I'm going to use SuperGlue and tissue to secure the ATST onto this flat rock. When they react, they create a super strong bond that will go rock solid. I'm going to use these pieces of lava rock to create a vertical living wall at the back of the terrarium. I'll be using SuperGlue and tissue to secure them to the glass at the back, and we'll keep building them up and up. I'll quickly remove the ATST for now while I finish the rest of the wall. I'm now going to use some of my sticky substrate to fill in the cracks and to mount the moss on. The substrate is made from bentonite clay powder, cocoa fibre and worm castings. When mixed together with water, this will stick straight to the glass and lava rock. It's so sticky I can't get it off my fingers here. Despite it being a pain to work with though, it does the job very well. On top of this, I'll add some moss to make the wall come alive. It's super easy to stick this straight on top, and after covering all of the exposed substrate, the wall was complete. I then placed back in the ATST and blended the rock into the floor. I found these especially cushiony pieces of moss this morning. I'm going to use them here in the floor of the terrarium to help create the forest floor effect that I'm aiming for. Moss found outside can be a great way to get it for cheap, however it can come with bugs inside, so it's best to wash it down first. I'm now going to add in these long pieces of wood to imitate the effect of trees growing against the wall. I wanted it to look like the ATST is inside of a dense forest. I'm now going to coat the floor with stones so that it looks like there's a mini path. I'm moving any excess that fell on the moss. Now I can add in some plant cuttings, starting with this fern. After this, I added this Pilea Moon Valley and another fern into the moss at the top. I'll keep going with this Philodendron cutting and another mini piece of spiderwood at the front. This asparagus fern can go into the sticky substrate at the top next to the other fern. It's now time for the final cuttings, for which I'll be using this Ficus quercifolia, which will grow up the wall at the back and also on the moss at the front. I wanted a plant growing on the ATST, and this Fittonia cutting is perfect. I'll then spray the whole terrarium down with deionized water, making sure not to add too much, as overwatering can be quite easy. Springtails were also added to stop any mould from growing on the wood and to eat any dead plants to fertilise the soil. I'm super happy with how this has turned out, and I've pretty much created the vision exactly how I planned it. The ATST doesn't look too out of place, and it looks like it's been left there for a very long time to rust. All the plants should grow in with time to help fill out the background and around the front. If you want to see me create a paludarium with a flowing waterfall, click on this video next where I'll give you a tutorial on exactly how to do it.